So you've decided to take on one of the most daunting tasks in storytelling. No, not talking to a publicist. You're looking to tell a story with a female character as the lead. But where do you start? How do you write a strong lead female character without writing a trope? And how do we make sure not to upset every Karen who reads the first 5 pages of your book? Today we're going to look at the core principles of good character writing, but first we're going to go over the subtleties of writing strong female characters that your audience doesn't hate. Let's get started. In my early days of writing, statements about the need for a strong, independent woman were just my girlfriend's way of breaking up with me. And while at the time I said to myself, you know what, she's right. This really is what's best for her. I realize now that a strong, independent woman is a problem a lot of writers face at any stage of their careers. From the teenage girl geniuses to a 120-pound woman holding her own against an onslaught of men 3 times her size, the strong female lead has become one of the most reviled roles in modern storytelling, not because the world's audiences hate strong women, but because it seems like most storytellers have never interacted with a woman in the wild, which is why it's so satisfying when this trope is executed well. That's why today we're going to be taking a look at Mizu from Blue Eye Samurai, a strong, stoic, lone swordsman with all of the bells and whistles of a traditionally masculine character wrapped into one double X chromosomed sushi roll of pain, but with well-developed emotional depth and complexity. There's a lot going on with this video, so just be patient as I try to get through all of it in, like, 12 minutes. So let's start with the obvious part of making our she-boss. Making a believably strong female character. For some reason, strong, independent writers feel the need to make a female lead with more strength in her left testicle than the average bull shark. And while this is getting easier to believe than watching Hugh Jackman performing acrobatics, the unbelievability can still take an audience member out of the story. Seeing as how I'm the one that gets called to squish centipedes in my household, my identity is very much wrapped up in being the strongest person in the home. Now, while I never see Mizu kill a single bug in Blue Eye Samurai, I don't doubt that she could chop one in half with her sword. Mizu is introduced as a master swordsman. Swordswoman. Whatever. But we are given an adequate backstory as to why she is a phenomenal fighter. Was she born the chosen one? No. Did she pick up a sword 5 minutes ago and just happen to be naturally talented with it? No. Did she train during all of her free time, needing to spy on other samurai because she was a girl with blue eyes, and slowly, over many years, acquire the skill of a samurai?
Nah, that's not right.
Power needs to be earned, or at the very least, the hero needs to struggle with getting their power under control. In stories, there is nothing cool about being born awesome, unless it's Good Will Hunting or Rain Man, but that's a video for another day. Blue Eye Samurai takes an honest approach to its hero's physical limitations and addresses them in a satisfying and believable way. Remember when your dad didn't show up for your Little League championship? Well, who am I kidding? You didn't play sports. But imagine your father trying to explain his mistake. I forgot is believable, but not satisfying. I got stuck fighting a dragon is satisfying, but not believable. Your game overlapped with happy hour is both believable and kind of satisfying. When it comes to storytelling, rather than looking at a woman's natural tendency to be physically weaker than a man as a horrendously egregious blight on humanity that needs to be righted in a work of fiction, let's look at it as any other constraint or obstacle we might face in a story. The goal isn't to ignore it and brush it off. The goal is figuring out a way to work within the constraints of a physically weaker character who has learned a better approach to conflict than boxing. For Mizu, this is done by making up for a deficit in physical strength with skills as a swordsman and a mental toughness acquired through years of being beaten, betrayed, hated, and rejected. This is why I always state my pro-bullying argument at school board meetings. Anyway, swordsmanship is relatively independent of physical strength, and because she has spent years training as a swordsman, Mizu can outmaneuver and outstrategize most other swordsmen. Finding ways to overcome your hero's limitations, physical or otherwise, should be fun for you as a writer. It's like the excitement you feel before you go up and talk to a stranger at the bar. Sure, it's great to get to know them, take them to dinner, and maybe go home together after you both realize neither of you can do much better right now. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes to storytelling, conflict, struggle, and going up against insurmountable odds are what make a story great. Don't shy away from giving your character limits, because otherwise you're cheating yourself, your audience, and your story. But now, once we make a female lead physically self sufficient, what do we do? Is that it? Will women readers believe that I tried to do my best if I just write a weaker version of a dude? Of course not. That would be too easy, and if there's anything I know about women, it's that nothing can ever be as simple as you want it to be. And that's where point number 2 starts off. Strength isn't just physical. Mizu has a skill and mentality that most others don't have because of what is called an internal wound. This is the chip on her shoulder, and it adds the second dimension to making a strong female lead. Strength for a female character can be thought of as self reliance and perseverance. Sure, part of what makes Mizu an awesome character is that her skill as a swordsman surpasses anyone else she meets. But cutting people in half doesn't make someone a strong person. I worked in a chemical factory once, and people got cut in half all of the time. Nobody thought the industrial mixers were strong, we just knew not to goof off around them, unless you thought it would be really funny. To truly write a strong female lead like Mizu, we need to go a level deeper and see that Mizu has emotional strength in conjunction with physical ability. Oh wow, a woman with dimensions! Who would have thunk it? And I get it. As a guy, these normally aren't the dimensions we care about in a woman. But if you want to write a great female character, then damn it, give her some complexity. While Mizu's mental strength often gets presented in the show as a willingness to walk off life threatening injuries and take on an entire Kill Bill tower of enemies to achieve her goal, we get our truest glimpses of inner strength when Mizu kills Kinyo, fighting off a horde of samurai after Mikio's betrayal, and deciding to postpone her quest for revenge to save Taijin. In these instances, Mizu is forced to perform soul crushing acts and then carry on as if nothing happened. This does not, I repeat, does not mean you inherently write your female characters as stoic. Mizu cries after 2 of these acts and is practically dead after the third, so I don't know, we'll give her a pass on that one. Her strength isn't that she gives no hex, it's that she gives plenty of hex and keeps pushing forward. This is where I think a lot of writers shy away from when writing female characters. They are afraid to give their heroines lose-lose decisions, decisions that emphasize internal strength, fortitude, and the will to keep pushing forward even when the choices both suck and break you down. But these lose-lose situations don't always have to do with revenge and murder. Akemi, Madame Kaji, and, to some extent, even the ladies at the brothel are strong in the more traditional feminine sense. Akemi leaves her life as a princess behind for love and freedom, using her cleverness to get out of sticky situations. Madame Kaji has needed to suppress her want for revenge in order to protect the women under her care, a strength to put the safety of others before her own personal wants. Even the prostitutes are just doing their best to make the most out of a bad situation with a smile on their face, even though there's no happy ending in sight. Or maybe it's too many happy endings, I'm not sure. In any case, having a stoic or resolute character is alright, but there need to be moments when you can show that, behind their resolve and determination, your hero, man or woman, has doubts, feels pain but keeps going, and, for female characters, you need to walk the line between overly reserved, making them hypermasculine, and at the other end, making them laughably vulnerable and emotional. And you get to manage this balancing act all while doing your best to make your female lead likable. So this should go without saying, but based on what I've been told about Star Wars and Captain Marvel, I guess I have to say that you need to make your female lead likable. Alright, let's break out the Sanderson sliders again. We have 3 main ways of making a hero likable: their competence, their proactivity, and their niceness. And if we're going to make this character a goal-driven nutcracker, then we're going to have to make them super competent and super proactive. Blue Eye Samurai kicks things off by having Mizu dodge a bullet and cut off a man's fingers with a butcher's knife for a man's name. Most of the women I know want the guy to make the first move, but Mizu isn't looking for a date, she's looking for revenge, which sometimes are one and the same, but this single act shows us immediately that Mizu is skilled, decisive, knows what she wants, and has the skill to get it. So then what's the problem? Aragorn, Captain Levi, Yoda, Jake the Dog all have these qualities and we love them. Why can't Mizu be one of the boys? The short answer is, She can be, but then the qualifier is that she can't be the main character. And I can hear the 1.5 women that watch this channel thinking passive aggressively to themselves, that's sexist. Why can't a woman character do what male characters do? But the phenomenon exemplified here is not a male female issue, it's a main character side character issue. Side characters are supposed to be cool. They're your best friend Dave from college. He was taller than you, better with the ladies than you. He had a bottle opener on the bottom of his flip flop that always came in handy, and he had a major that got him a real job after graduation. That and a dad that managed a bank branch. But the point is that nobody wants to hear a story about Dave because Dave is already who he wants to be. Instead, people want to hear about someone that still has goals to achieve and some improvements to make. A lot of improvements to make. And that brings us back to Mizu and Sanderson's sliders. If we have a competent and proactive hero, then their most interesting weakness is going to come from their actual niceness, or rather, the lack thereof. Since we've already established that Mizu has a stoic facade, but we as viewers get glimpses into her true struggles, we understand that her cold exterior is covering an internal wound. And this brings us to our fourth point. Your hero, male or female, needs something external to overcome, yes, but more importantly, they need something within themselves to conquer. What I love about Mizu and Blue Eye Samurai is that her strength as a swordsman comes from her internal suffering. She is intense, stoic, and mentally tough because she's endured so much pain. She's a bastard. Kids beat her up for her eye color. Her mother hid her in the woods for being different. Her husband tried to murder her for being better than him at collecting apples. It makes sense that she's closed off. And it makes perfect sense that the writers use this closed offness as both the source of her strength and her handicap. It's their theme for ball's sake. Steel that is too rigid breaks more easily. So, let's think of writing a main character like the opposite of a job interview. Usually, you go in and they ask you if you have any weaknesses, and you make up some crap like, some people say I work too hard. I've been told I work too well with others. I'm so driven that I'm going to stage a mishap that gets you fired and steal your job. And everybody eats up the lies like donuts dipped in cocaine. In storytelling, we want to do the opposite. Your hero's greatest strength should double as their biggest weakness. Think of Kratos' rage, Logan's guilt, Tommy Shelby's ambition, Eren Yeager's determination. Yeah, they're all dudes, but that does not matter. The same rules apply. Women can rage. You should see how keyed up my car is. Women can feel guilt, have ambition, be determined. But when you ignore that these attributes have pros and cons in female characters, you degrade your female characters to something less than human. For female characters, you can usually make these double-edged qualities cut deeper than they would for male characters. We see this in Blue Eye Samurai when Seki explains that a woman can be a wife or a whore. Those are the two acceptable roles for women in 1600s Japan. Now think of where that puts Mizu, who is driven by a need for revenge against 4 men who wronged her. This dilemma has a harder impact because she is a woman and the quest for revenge is something women are not allowed to take. The last thing we want to do, and often the most common thing that gets done, is to make a female lead who is perfect and is just waiting for the whole world to realize she is perfect. Mizu does not care who acknowledges that she is a great samurai. She doesn't want acolytes or help. She isn't trying to be a hero. Every action she takes is out of her own need for revenge, a revenge society says she has no right to pursue. Do you see how the internal and external pressure are amplified because she is a woman, whereas if she were a man, no one would tell her to just get married and forget your ambitions? This double standard serves as an extra obstacle for our hero, and as writers, we want to remember that anything we can use to challenge our hero should be utilized to its fullest, especially when it comes to a character's gender. The sexual discrimination is only another form of oppression Mizu has needed to overcome in her quest for revenge, but this all-consuming need for revenge eats away at Mizu's inner self, the better part of herself, because she will take any risk for her revenge, regardless as to how it might affect those characters who might otherwise call her a friend, friends she so desperately wanted as a blue-eyed outcast. And just look at that. That's perfect irony right there. Everything that the hero ever needed is right on the other side of everything she desperately wants, and that is the complexity of any great hero. The same way you can cut into any dumpster corpse and find lungs, a stomach, kidneys, and liver, regardless of their gender, is the same way you should be able to take any character and find the same basic principles that make them believable and satisfying to watch or read about. But striking a balance in the duality and complexity in your characters, while also paying attention to the subtleties of male or female characters, are equally as important as these core features. Make sure you take your time when writing female characters. Constantly stop to ask yourself why you are choosing to make a character female, and what obstacles are they going to face physically, socially, and therefore mentally that they would face to a lesser extent if they were male. And don't be afraid to ask your non imaginary lady friends for their input, trying to balance their opinions with what you feel is best for your character. If you liked this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss our weekly writing advice, and leave a comment on anything I left out of this video, because we've only scratched the surface. The end.